Welcome back to another episode of the Knock On Podcast, brought to you by Zero Tackle. Dan, what a weekend for footy. But it's not just the games we've got to talk about. There's everything else happening around there. You've got the hot topics. What's happening?
The hot button issues have hit us in the past couple of hours. I was at work earlier and I was thinking, what are we going to talk about tonight? And then the NRL went bang, 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 and I thought, delicious. This might be our best show ever, Terry. And I know that's a high bar.
And it's every week.
But it's going to be good. But we're going to start with the hottest topic. And that is not Zac Lomax. That's the second hottest topic. It is that Lachlan Galvin has been suspended for 2 weeks, justly, I believe. But the suspension rules him out of Rookie of the Year honours. Now, we saw last year Jacob Preston, the player that I believe was odds on to win the award, made ineligible for a similar suspension. I think that was 3 weeks. What are your thoughts on the suspension, first and foremost? And do you believe it should knock him out of a Rookie of the Year honour? Now, before I go on, I want to preface this by saying I believe that any suspension of any worth, 2+ weeks, should rule you out of the Dally M because it's the best and fairest award.
Look, going back, first and foremost, address the tackle, right? The tackle definitely deserves a suspension. I was very shocked when it came out that he was going to get away with 2 weeks because that was one of the worst hip drops I've seen. And like Max Plath, who also got 2 weeks, I believe, I think they got it because they're rookies and this is the first time they've been charged by the NRL and, they're going to have some kind of relative clean slate because they're rookies, right? I don't believe that a suspension should rule you out of the Rookie of the Year, nor do I believe it should rule you out of the Dally M. I really like the model that the NBA has gone to by giving it a minimum games. And they've turned around and said, so the NBA is an 82-game season, and they say that you have to play 65 games. If you don't play 65 games, you are ineligible to get it. Now, that can cover injury, suspension, rest, COVID, whatever, right? So I believe that the NRL has got 24 games that you are eligible to play. And I think if they turn around and said you have to play a minimum 19 games to be up for any award, right? Why I think this now, let's go back to Lockie Galvin because he's now ineligible to win Rookie of the Year and we're saying this in round 5, right? And it's kind of like, probably by about round 10 you'll get over it because Ethan Strange is really good and Fatapi, the centre from the Tigers, is really good. And there's going to be some other rookies that are coming on the scene that are going to be really good. And every now and then you're going to come back and go, yeah, but Galvin's better. But. If this happened in round 25 and he missed the last 2 games and that made him ineligible and he had dominated for the whole year as the clear-cut Rookie of the Year and you're like, his name's on the trophy, that's when I think you got the real issue with it. So I think going to a game merit system would be the best way for the NRL to do it. If they turn around and said, okay, well, 75% of your season is 18 games, so we're going to say 75% plus 1. So you can play 19 games, and that makes you, if you don't play 19 games, you're not eligible for any award. You're not eligible for a position award. You're not eligible for the Dally M Team of the Year. You're not eligible for whatever kind of awards they have, because a 2-week suspension in round 5 or round 4 or whatever it is so harsh for an 18-year-old kid who is destroying the NRL. Like, not only is he the best rookie, but he's probably the best 5'8" over the last 3 weeks. Let's be real. Because Cam Munster's not playing and there hasn't been a standout 5'8" in the competition at the moment. So I think it's incredibly harsh and they need to have a look at them. Now, I can understand the suspension for the Dally M because, as you said, it's the best and fairest. But I'd like to go to a per game, 75% plus 1 because, like now in round 5, you've got 22 weeks to get over it. If this happened in round 25 and he missed round 26 and round 27 and wasn't eligible for the Rookie of the Year, that's where I think you're going to have a massive, massive problem. I know it's a crappy tackle or whatever, but I don't think you can punish an 18-year-old kid because of that and not get the top gong.
I agree with a lot of what you said. I'm going to be a bit of a flip-flopper here because I said on 20 Thoughts that'll drop tomorrow by the time this drops that I want hip drops to be send-offs. Mm-hmm. I want them to... Bad hip drops should be send-offs, not all of them. I don't want a blanket rule. The blanket rules do not work in rugby league. I think 2 weeks is incredibly lucky. But in thinking that, he's a kid who's made one bad tackle in his entire career today. I know it's only a couple of weeks old. And look, we might see someone come out of the gate and blow him away. But at the moment, it's Lachlan Galvin and the rest in terms of rookies. The fact that you're looking at it as we're heading to round 5, he cannot win Rookie of the Year is ridiculous to me. Now, if this was an 8-week suspension or a 6-week suspension, even a 4-week suspension, I think that's the cutoff. So if you get a 4-week suspension, you've dropped someone on their head, or you've given them a clothesline, or you've done something abhorrently wrong. If you get suspended twice for 2 weeks, then you haven't learnt your lesson. I think there needs to be a cutoff. For 3 weeks or under, you're eligible. As soon as you get suspended for that 4th week, I don't care if you rack up 55 fines. If you don't get suspended for 4 weeks, you can play. Now, in saying that, if you play 10 weeks and get suspended for 3, obviously some common sense needs to come into it. You're probably not going to be eligible if you're not playing enough games anyways. I think there needs to be because last year I thought Jacob Preston was the best rookie of the year, and I don't think it was particularly close. Taruva was very good, do not get me wrong. And I thought Buller was very good. I actually thought Buller probably should have won it when you look at on merits. But the fact that Preston didn't when he should have, we've got it 2 years in a row. And again, we're in round 5. We're already discussing this. I understand it. I get it. It's the same for everyone. Don't get suspended. But you're an 18-year-old kid making a tackle. Preston made a bad tackle last year. It's not like these guys are going out and head high on everyone, and copping 12-week bans. I think he's very, very hard.
So when you said the 4 weeks, like if you just add an extra to it and say 5, that's when you get to the 19 games. You got to play 19 games. And if you miss 5 games from injury, or if you miss 6 games from injury, or if you miss 6 games from illness, or if you miss 6 games, however, that rules you out, right? Put it on a per game basis, and that way everyone's on a level playing field. And I know everyone's on a level playing field at the moment with the 2 weeks, but it's dumb. It really is dumb because Galvin didn't go out there and want to hurt or hip drop anyone, and neither did Max Plath. And it's just it's an unfortunate tackle. It's unfortunate that he landed on the back of his legs the way that he did, and now you're punishing him for it. So if you just turn around and say you can accumulate points, but if you only play 18 games, you end up on 0 points. There we are. I've just solved it. Thank you, NRL.
Fair. Done and done. Another one fixed right here on the knockout. Now moving on to the breaking news, and pretty much all everyone's talking about right now, which is exciting. That is that Zac Lomax has, officially been released, or is going to be released at the end of the year. Now, for those of you that watch Rugby League Outlaws, and if not, please jump on and check it out. We recorded this on Monday night, and we said that it's only a matter of, 24 hours to 48 hours till he gets released. We saw into the future. What are your thoughts on the situation? Where will he end up? The Dragons done the right thing? Just get it all out.
Well, I think the Dragons, in releasing the statement, have covered all areas for them. So they've said that we will release him at the end of 2024, and we're not paying a single cent on his contract for the remaining 2 seasons. So it's on you to negotiate with Zac whether he's going to take a pay cut or you're just going to pay him what he's owed. I think the NRL would step in and say, he had a contract, he's asked for a release, you're going to have to pay as close to possible that you can for him. And they've said that he's with us for 2024. However, we will take a player swap. So I think what you're going to see is Zac Lomax sign with the club in probably the next week, maybe 2 weeks, but say it's in a week. There's a story there's a story floating around that he's meeting with Parramatta tomorrow. I dare say he's going to meet with Melbourne. And there's a couple of other teams that, he'll just get the feelers out there to see what, is available to him. But then when he's signed with that club, that's when they can then go to them and say, okay, well, we've got him for 2025. We want him for 2024. What do we have to give up? And if a deal can be struck, the Dragons come out with a couple of players. And if not, they've got money in their cap for next year. Now, it's apparently $850,000. They're not going to have the full amount because they have to sign a replacement. But this now gives them the opportunity to, let's just go on hypothetical because the talk around town is he's going to sign with Parramatta. They can go to Melbourne and say, well, we'll take Nas off your hands. We've got some money for this year if you want to give him to us now. They can go to Penrith and go to Sania Taruva and say, look, I know you want to play fullback. We've got a pretty handy fullback, but we can pay you like a fullback to play on the wing, or you can chance your hand in the centres, whatever you want to do. Then go to Kaoliro, who had his second game on the weekend. That's 2 class games that he's now played in NRL, and say, Cronulla can't give you the money that we can. we've got a wing spot definitely open. You fight with Jack Bird. And I think with Kaoliro, because he's got that hunger, he would probably go and win that fight with Jack Bird. So I think the Dragons put themselves in the front foot to come out on the best way that they possibly can. Before I think the Dragons, though, with doing this may have upset the apple cart. So I'll let you go into it before I then flip around why I think this could be a negative. So you go.
I think Dragons have won this situation extremely well. I think Zac Lomax, well, he got what he wanted, so he didn't lose in this situation either. But I think he comes off looking a little bit like a sport brat, to be honest. I have a lot of Dragons mates, some that have been mates for years and years and years, and that I respect greatly. And they're coming out and saying he's a child. He's throwing his toys out of the cot. He's not willing to fight for a spot. He's getting paid almost $1 million to play on the wing. I think he's played his best football in probably 2 seasons. And I think if he stays under Shane Flanagan, he will play his best football. I think the Dragons have done exceptionally well. They've said, well, we got him for the end of the year, then he's not our problem anymore. They can go and recruit with his money. They can put the money, which I think $850K for a centre is ridiculous. They can go put that into a position they need, and they need plenty. I think moving him on is great. I don't think he'll see the season out at the Dragons, but they're in a great spot where they can sit back and say, we like that player, you've offered it, but no thank you. And Lomax has just got to lump it on the wing because he's got what he wanted. He can't go back and go, look, thanks, but actually I want to go now. Shane Flanagan's going to sit back and say, cool, I'll have Para on him, I'll have Wormu Greg, that young kid. He's playing pretty well. We'll have him. Got any forwards? I know New South Wales Cup team's not going great. Some stars. We'll have those 3, thank you. And if Paris say go away, well, you can have him next year. Yep. I think the Dragons have played this exceptionally well. I don't think Lomax has played it well at all, but he got what he wanted, so I suppose he won in the end.
So that there leads me to 2 things, right? One, I don't think Lomax has played this very well, and you said it comes across like a sport brat, a baby. Outside of Brian Toto, there hasn't really been an outstanding New South Wales winger, and you could probably have thrown Zac Lomax's name in there because Josh Adokar's not been in good form, and Stephen Crichton plays his best football in the centres. You can't go and chuck him on the wing, and Campbell Graham's injured, and there's all these possibilities, and people are throwing up all these names, but the name that you probably need to look at is the goal-kicking winger in Zac Lomax. Mm-hmm. He was playing sensational football, right? If I was being paid $850,000 to go and stand out on the wing, which is a much better position in today's game than in the centres, sweet as, happy days. The other thing, though, with the Dragons, they've succumbed to his release so quickly. Ben Hunt has been trying to get out of that club for 2 years now. And they have rejected his release every time. And for him to pick up a newspaper today and see that his mate, who's been crying for about 3 weeks, get a release, I think you're going to have a very unhappy Ben Hunt. And I think his management will pick up that phone and start angling for a release for 2025.
Well, I wrote the other day on Zero Tackle that if I was the Dragons, I'd release both of them. I'd cut the cord and I'd sign players that want to be there. I'm writing something, as soon as we finish this, I'm jumping back on after we record Fins Up, about what Shane Flanagan's doing at the Dragons. I'm seeing a lot of parallels to what he did at Cronulla. So make sure you check that out. I think he's played this very well. And the Dragons fans, well, short-term pain, long-term gain. Speaking of which, having a look at some of the sides that were named yesterday, coaches, well, a few of the coaches aren't having a go. We said the other night that if Des Hasler names Tanner Boyd at number 7, well, he's probably, his 3 weeks at the Titans may come to an end.
My exact words were, if he names Tanner Boyd on Tuesday, he should be sacked on Wednesday.
Drew Hutchinson's been named again, despite turning in an all-time stinker. People are talking about how good his running game is. That's all he's got. I don't want to make it personal, but those two, I'm seeing way too many ordinary footballers named in squads. I'm seeing too many fans of teams go, oh God, here we go again. Canberra made one enforced change after, surrendering an 18-point lead to a pretty ordinary Cronulla side. Their fans are annoyed. Bulldogs fans are annoyed. One fan base aren't, which is my next point, so I'm going to stay away and hope you stay away from that. Do you think coaches are playing it safe, or do you think they're doing the right thing and fans just have to lump it for now?
Look, I think the wrong teams are playing it safe, right? What, like, in all, I know there were some stupid comments in round one saying the expectation for the Gold Coast Titans this year was to make the top 8. Listen, nobody had the Gold Coast Titans in the top 8 this year. In fact, if you had the Gold Coast Titans outside of the bottom 6, I've got a bridge in Sydney for sale. Okay? So, Des Hasler is taking the safe option when he doesn't need to. This was a free hit for Des. He had done literally no recruitment, and he had brought no players to that club that he really wanted. So this was the chance for him to turn around and go, see you later, Tanner Boyd. Hello, Troy Weaver. Hello, whoever else we've got playing Q Cup for us, whoever else is in the developmental squads. Because their season's done. Their season is done and dusted now. Tino's out. They're in terrible form. They don't know what to do with AJ Brimson. He's another answer. Go and put him in the number 7 jersey. Do anything but Tanner Boyd. I think he's playing this extremely wrong, and I think Cameron Serraldo, he's now in his second season where he's probably got that relationship with Gus that buys him a little bit more time than most clubs would have the patience for. I don't think Toby Sexton is the answer, because in theory, if you've been released from the Gold Coast Titans because you were behind Tanner Boyd and now you can't get ahead of Drew Hutchison, but you have to do something. You have to do something. Like, you can move Blake Taff, who came through the juniors, in the halves. You can... There's got to be other options there. You can put Toby Sexton back into the halves and see what happens. It's probably not going to be a game changer, right? On the flip side, you're seeing Adam O'Brien. It's now week 5, and he's turned around and said, right, I wasn't happy with Jackson Hastings. He can go back to New South Wales Cup and have 2 games. And guess what? 2 wins for Newcastle in New South Wales Cup. Jackson Hastings is back in the team. Tyson Gamble, you go and find some form somewhere. So I think he's made the right call. I just think the other 2 coaches haven't done it.
They're playing it safe with players that don't...
You don't need to.
Look, I don't want to turn it into a heat piece because, I'm sure they're lovely people and I'm sure they're good footballers. But they're not fulfilling... They're getting paid. They're professional athletes. They should be able to take the criticisms. Neither of them could look and think, I've been happy with the start of my season. Now, I think Drew Hutchison's earned himself a little bit more time because he's playing a position that he wasn't playing last year. Tanner Boyd's playing the exact same role he did last year, which was ordinary. He's done the exact same again. Meanwhile, Des Hasler seems intent on ruining AJ Brimson's career. He was the Titans' best last year. I know that's not saying much, but he was their best. He has been for years now. They've pushed him to the centres because he'll do what he's told. If I'm the Dragons, I'm going to AJ Brimson and saying, come up here. Come play for us. He needs to get out of the Titans.
Where are you going to play him, though? You're going to put him in the 6 jersey? Because Kyle's there.
I would, 100% I wouldn't. I'd move Flanagan to 9, but whatever, that's the Dragons' problems. Let them enjoy that. But Des Hasler has options. He could pick anyone from the crowd. It's something different. What he's doing is not working, and it's frustrating the hell out of me. And I don't care if they finish last and go winless. I think it's hilarious. With the Bulldogs, I'm firmly thinking that they've got 4 or 5. They've got Bronson Zera, who's turning up New South Wales Cup, can't get a run. They keep going back to this Blake Wilson, who, had a very good end of last season. I don't dislike that. But what's to say they can't put Connor Tracy at fullback and move Taff into the halves? If they're so content with Wilson, it gives Zera a spot. Put Crichton at fullback. He signed to play fullback. Give him a shot. Move Taff in. I don't know, just do something. This same again mentality is so boring as a neutral. And I mean, Cronulla, we've been calling for how many weeks? Well, I've been calling for how many weeks to make changes? We see, okay, even if we got done the other day, at least it was something different.
Well, I mean, go back to Cronulla in 2022. We were second and we were calling for Matt Moylan to be dropped for Braden Trindle. Last year we were in the top 4 and we were calling for Braden Trindle to come into the team. Now Braden Trindle's in the team and guess what? We look pretty good.
Exactly. You got to make these changes. But with the negatives, Terry, is the positives. The one person who seems to be able to make these changes is Benji Marshall.
Ooh.
He's coaching like he played. He's seeing what's ahead of him and he's doing what he sees fit. We saw him bring Lachlan Galvin in via the bench. We saw, Aiden Caesar, rather, via the bench. We saw him not play Sullivan a single minute. 2 players didn't get on the park the other day for the Tigers. I cannot remember the last time that happened. He's seen what he's seen and he's reacting to it. Now, Galvin's unfortunately been suspended for 2 weeks. Sullivan comes in and he's blooding young Finu, who looks an absolute freak of a youngster.
Going on Benji, because I knew where you were going to go with that. That's why I didn't touch the Tigers, right? But Benji has had a look at the squad and he's turned around and said, I need this mix of experience with this mix of youth. And the Tigers did everything they could to get the Fainu brothers out. And he basically said, well, if I don't play... Benji's mentality is, if I don't play them, what was the point? So Samuel Fainu has been on the bench and he said, I'm just going to make you good.
Yeah.
I'm just going to do it. But with that, you can be surrounded by two guys on the bench, and Alex Seyfarth and Alex Twal. And just go on there and just play your natural game, right? So, I think Benji, he's got Stafford Toa, he's got Tupou, he's got all the Kapoa, he's got all the guys that could go into... And what does he do when he gets an injury in the centres? He doesn't drop his rookie. He keeps his rookie in there and he brings Justin Olam in. And I think that's great because he's getting the youngsters the reps now. So when the Tigers in 26, 27 turn around and go, we can actually be a shot at top 4 here, they're not having to worry about these young kids then coming into the team. They're getting the reps now. They may finish 10th this year, but 10th this year for them is going to be so vital for 25 and 26 and 27 when they're building for that future. Maybe we were wrong about Benji Marshall. Maybe we were wrong. And I think he's done very well in having Robbie Farah there, who we know those two are really tight. But I think the underrated signing for them has been John Morris. Yeah.
I love what I see from Benji Marshall so far. Now, obviously, the results are going all right. Didn't start too well, but they've turned it around. 2 wins for the first time since 2020. They've won more games than they've lost. This is a crazy turnaround.
And they're a red hot chance this weekend as well. I know the Dolphins are good, but the Tigers are red hot chance.
Absolutely, and it's all on the back of he's picking players and he's giving them a go. You can't tell me Lachlan Galvin starts at the Bulldogs or the Titans. They're just not in that position right now. I'm extremely happy with what I've seen. The fans are very, very happy, and even if they lost to Parramatta, Galvin's playing good football. You got young Fino in now. You've got these young kids. I
really like that centre, Fatapi.
Yeah, I just wish some of these other coaches would look and say, okay, let's give it a crack. Because for me, they're not having to go. It's boring, and it's not looking to the future. It's just, I know everyone's trying to save their job. We need to pick experience, blah, blah, blah. You can't pick for New South Wales Cup. Andrew Johns started in New South Wales Cup. Darren Lockyer started in Queensland Cup. These players have to debut somewhere. I'm glad to see it. Go the Tigers. Now, staying with the Tigers, because I love a good news story. David Klemmer. For those that didn't see, he jumped when Clint Gutherson went to kick the match-winning or potential match-winning penalty goal after the siren, and then gave a fair serve when the King missed the kick. What are your thoughts on what David Klemmer did?
My thoughts are, rugby league fans get so outraged at something and then make up rules that don't exist. I saw online today from a whole heap of Parramatta fans saying, because David Klemmer jumped, by the rules, there should have been a retake of the kick. No, that's not true. That is absolutely not true. In fact, David Klemmer was 10 metres away or more and could literally do everything he wanted to, apart from a bylaw which says he can't remove his clothing.
Gotcha.
Also can't spray water.
Makes sense.
They are the things that he can't do. If he wanted to jump up and down, if he wanted to turn around, if he wanted to star jump, if he wanted to start doing push-ups, if he wanted to do sit-ups, if he wanted to do burpees, if he wanted to run across that 10-metre line, he can literally do whatever he wants. He just can't cross the 10-metre line. My thoughts on this from David Klemmer was not that he was pissed off with Clint Gutherson. I think he was pissed off with the ruling because Jareen Buller was pushed. And that's the reason why he dropped the ball, and that's the reason why it was a penalty. And the Tigers were thinking it's deja vu in North Queensland all over again. And Clint Gutherson is a brilliant striker of the ball. Like, there was never a question was he going to get the distance? It's was he was going to get the accuracy. So I think the emotion from Klemmer was not directed at Clint Gutherson at all, and I don't think it was personal. I think it was just will you miss this kick? Get that up here. I love it. And I'm an unabashed David Klemmer fan. Like, I would take David Klemmer at Cronulla in a heartbeat. Let's just put that out there. So he probably can't do much wrong in my eyes. But I think that was brilliant. We hate personalities. We always turn around and say we need more personalities in the game. When someone gives you a bit of personality, it's like, well, that's a penalty.
Mate, I loved it. It affects no one. If it was on, it was right up in his face, or it was on camera, because it was a blink and you miss it sort of thing. It was only through the replays and people gifting and screenshotting that I did see this. But I think if he'd run up to the camera and get that up there, Gutho, I think it'd be a different story.
Or if he ran up and pushed his face or something, or...
It's a bit of personality and it's harmless. And Gutho turned away. He was upset. He was disappointed. He missed the kick that I thought he was going to make. I was convinced he was going to make that kick.
Yeah, I was convinced it was going to be deja vu.
Yeah, me too. And I thought it was enjoyable and ultimately harmless. I get people being offended, but come on, there's way worse things in this game than that. And I think Klemmer, I wouldn't give him any Dally M points as a result, but I liked it. I thought it was funny. Now, moving on to something that I hold dear to my heart and I miss, and that's Monday night football, mate. We saw a return this week, Monday afternoon football. I loved it. I'm a huge anti-fan. I hate the 6 p.m. game on Friday night. Monday night football was a pain in the backside to get to after work, but it was fun to watch at home. Friday night 6 p.m. offers neither of those. Bring back Monday night football.
The only thing about Monday night football is there's that 3-day turnaround, but you would hope that with a little bit of common sense, you're not going to get scheduled on a Monday to play on a Thursday, because that's just ridiculous, right? The other thing as well, why they stopped the Monday night football was the charge sheet and the judiciary process, and also teamless Tuesdays, because you might have to wait 24 hours to see if someone has a concussion. But I'm with you. 6 o'clock Friday offers absolutely nothing. And this has come from someone who works from home on a Friday. So I can get to games. No problem whatsoever. I hate it still. It stinks. The thing about the 6 o'clock, though, is it was introduced to give the Warriors an away game that was suitable, or a home game that was suitable. And I get that because the 3 o'clock and the 5 o'clock on Saturday are New Zealand time slots as well. I love Monday night football, and therefore it would be a nice reintroduction if, like, every 5th round we had a Monday night game. Not every round.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. Mix it up a little bit. Look, yeah, the main reason they can't bring Monday nights back is that the Warriors never host Monday nights because they can't. And playing away on Monday nights is a disadvantage, blah, blah, blah. But it's not to the fan base. That's why you bring a Perth team in. You give them Monday night football every week. It's a mid-afternoon game on Monday. No one works in Perth. We've solved all the problems. I say it with tongue-in-cheek, but I do miss my Monday night football. I did look forward to it every single week. Plus, Monday usually sucks, and to put Rugby League on the end just takes the pain off. But moving on to something a little bit more serious, we saw a great performance by second gamer Kaeliro for the Sharks. Potentially a dilemma. What do they do? A good dilemma as a Sharks fan. What do you do with Talakai? What do you do with Iro? Because I've seen people say, well, obviously you just rush Talakai back. Others are saying, well, you got to get more out of him. You got to put him in the middle. You put him on the bench. Good problem to have without going too far into it, because we will break this down on Fins Up. Make sure you check it out. What are your thoughts quickly on Iro's second game, and what do you do with Talakai?
Look, everything that I was concerned about with moving Talakai came to fruition. Moving him takes away it takes away his impact, because you can always guarantee that the first hit up off the ruck, if it's down that side, was going to be Talakai, and it was Iro, but he just doesn't have the punch of Talakai. I look at it and I think there are a couple of options and a couple of solutions that Cronulla can go with. I think Fitz is going to do what we were just critical of with other coaches and go safety first and put Talakai back. But, I mean, you see with Cronulla's bench, sometimes it lacks impact. And maybe that's what Talakai needs to be. He needs to be the one to replace Cam McInnes and share the minutes with him. And then also as well, if T. Wilton or Britton Nakora are not having a good game, he can go there. Or if there's an injury in the props, he can go into... Because, I mean, the guy's mental. Kaeliro is a super talent. Okay, he's played 2 games, run for over 150 metres in both games. I know the first one was against the Bulldogs, and they weren't very good at the time. And then this one was against the Raiders, who were giving us an absolute bath. And he came up against a Kiwi international and came out the other side on top. I am fully of the belief that you have to make your best 17 work. And right now we've seen that Kaoliro can be in the best 17. Now, maybe it's Kaoliro that goes to the bench. Maybe it's Kaoliro that goes to the bench. But I talked myself out of Talakai being on the bench because I think he just offers so much. But with him on the bench now, you've got a backup lock, a backup second rower, a backup back, and you've just got a utility who can do whatever. You know, if you turn around to him and said, "Oh, we've got an injury to Braden Trindle, you need to go and play as a running 5'8", he's just going to go and do it. So maybe that's the way forward, and then someone like Dale Finucane moves into the 18th man role because you've got to you've got to prolong that guy's career because it's shaking and spiraling at the moment. I don't know. It's a big dilemma, and we pay Fitz the money to do it. So there you go.
Good dilemma to have. I'm really happy. The reason I wanted Hero in the systems, now we know we can do it. So if there is a move to make, you can make it. Now, Talakai's on record as saying he'll stay in the forwards if he needs to for the team. I was a little bit worried that Fitzgibbon came out and said that Talakai playing out of position in second row, which I still maintain is his best position. So that makes me think that when the players are back, it just goes back to what it was, and Hero goes back to being 18th man or goes back and plays the odd game for Newtown. I feel better now about that than I did because he's not untested anymore. 2 games, but it's more than one, and you got to find the positives there. I think you will see Talakai move into a middle forward role at some stage. Whether that it's going to take a heap of injuries or something, it's going to happen at some stage. He just doesn't have the footwork. I go back to Canberra last year. Matt Timoko had his way with Sif Talakai. He didn't make one tackle break against Kaoliro, who didn't miss a single tackle. Had a try and a try assist against Kiwi International in his second game. This kid is up to it, and I will be tooting that horn all week and then some. I'm with you though. You got to make your best 17 work. Kaoliro is in the best 17 players, so Sif Talakai, you have to get both of them in there. Of course, everything you said was right. Everything you wanted to see from Talakai, we didn't because he just played the Britton Nickera role. We lost all his impact. He made like 4 or 5 runs, made a heap of tackles. But he didn't concede that weak try. He didn't run in. He didn't get, fleet-footed by a faster centre. So that's a net positive for me. But you got to find a way to get up around 150 metres in Talakai too. So I think it's a good problem to have, but it is a problem. And I think we'll find the answer in 2 to 4 weeks because I don't think all the players will be back. But I'm excited.
Thank you everyone for listening to another episode of the Knock On Podcast brought to you by Zero Tackle, your one-stop shop for all things rugby league. Player rumours, breaking news, fantastic articles written by my colleague on the podcast with me. Some of the best writers that you've got on there, some people who put in a whole heap of time to make sure this website just absolutely kicks off. It's up to date with everything, contracts, negotiations, you name it. They've got it. Dan, what have we got coming this week? What can our listeners look out for?
So a couple of big ones this week. Scott and I put together a top 5 landing destinations for both Zac Lomax and Taruva, and I think you can list 8 for both, so that'll be fun. I'm working on a Flanagan feature, which I'm really excited about. I'm seeing a lot of what I saw at Cronulla in this current setup, and Dragons fans should be very excited. But Scott's got 2 big questions coming without blowing the lead. The Kiwis deserve a second team, in my opinion. I'll leave it at that, and he's going to ask, is the interchange due for shake-up? I think the answer might be yes, but again, I don't want to bury the lead, but make sure you keep an eye out. It's going to be a huge week. Zero Tackle.